Chapter 17, in which our hero laments the loneliness of the ninth fastest long-distance runner. I didn't go back to school for fourth period. I needed to think. And contrary to popular belief, school just isn't the place for that. Instead, I spent the rest of the afternoon driving aimlessly around Hornby. Well, not entirely aimlessly, because after a few minutes I ended up on Sadie's old street. Her house looked like it did the day she moved. Rumor was her parents still owned it, and I was wondering who mowed their lawn when I noticed the old lady across the street watching me from her kitchen window. I wasn't sure if skipping school and or driving down the same road 16 consecutive times was illegal, but decided either way it was best to move on before she called the cops. But by now I was running low on gas, and I was always running low on gas money, so I stopped at Sadie's father's old church, Hornby Christian Fellowship, and sat in the parking lot and tried to process the morning. Parker was right. The media would eat this story up. Fame was a certainty, and fame was my goal, because Black Saturday left me painfully aware of the giant chasm between my world and the world of the famous. I mean, anyone can call Chris Martin of Martin's 24-hour plumbing in Fort Worth, but it's a little harder to call the lead singer of Coldplay. So I decided to become famous, and it didn't matter what for, so long as it was legal. Famous and imprisoned wasn't going to do me much good. My first plan was to just wait for it, because it seemed to me for at least half the famous people out there, fame just fell on their heads like bird shit. That's what happened to Sadie. Why not me? But that plan was too passive. So instead, I began searching for something I was great at, knowing once I found that something, it would lead to instant celebrity. I know that sounds a little naive, but I was 16, and 16-year-olds are predisposed to daily delusions of grandeur. Anyway, as you've likely guessed, finding something I was great at proved difficult. I didn't have the looks for modeling, or the words for writing, or the rhythm for music, or the money to be famous just for being rich. This left sports, which was a problem in itself, because most people who find fame through athletics possess a combination of 1. Size, which at 5'9" and 140 pounds I sorely lacked, and 2. Strength, something I regretted not having more of whenever I asked my mother to open a jar for me, and 3. Coordination, that hard-to-define quality that blesses some people with the graceful movement of a gazelle, while I stumble around like a drunken giraffe. I wasn't lying to Garland. I was currently a member of J.P. Hornby's track team, but wished I were not. Not long after Black Saturday, my stepdad, who is not licensed to practice psychiatry in Alabama or anywhere else, diagnosed me with situational depression and prescribed either exercise or an hour a week with our school's guidance counselor. I chose exercise and started running in the evenings, and actually loved it, because the sensation of rubbing alcohol in my lungs, a sharp knife in my side, and 1,000 needles in my shins made it hard for me to think about Sadie Evans, or anything else except how much running sucked. I even started to look forward to the pain, but much to my annoyance, my endurance increased, so I had to start running faster and farther to get Sadie off my mind. It was like a drug for someone who was too scared to take actual drugs. In the spring, I even joined the track team because I'd seen this movie where a kid was winning a cross-country race only to stop at the finish line and walk away to prove a point about something or other. I figured if I could do that at the Alabama State Championships, they might show it on SportsCenter. But after one day of practice, I realized I was at best the 9th fastest guy at J.P. Hornby, and unless plantar fasciitis conveniently struck the 8 guys in front of me, I wasn't even going to run at the state championships, let alone win a race with only a few steps to go. I would have quit, but my stepdad had this stupid rule about not quitting things once you've started them, so I was stuck on the team until school ended in May. I was wondering if our coach would even notice I'd skipped practice that afternoon when a knock on my window scared the shit out of me. I looked up, and smiling down at me with blinding white teeth was the pastor of Hornby Christian Fellowship. I'd forgotten his name. They call him Brother something. Brother Dale? Brother Rick? I rolled down my window and he said, "May I help?" "Oh, Edwin Green, we haven't seen you around here in ages. How are you, son?" "I'm good," I said, and wasn't sure what to say next. Not that I once made out with his associate pastor's daughter in the baptismal pool and worried sometimes I might have condemned my soul to hell, though that thought did cross my mind every time I drove past a church. "Well, can I help you with anything? Is your car giving you trouble?" "No, sir. I had some time to kill before track practice. Stopped here to read for a few minutes." Brother What's-His-Name smiled and said, "Well, stay as long as you like. All are welcome in God's house, and his parking lot." He laughed at his own joke, and I faked a smile, and he started walking toward his car, but he stopped and asked, "By the way, do you still hear from Sadie?" I'm sure it's a sin to tell a pastor to go to hell, so I just said no, and he left me alone with my thoughts.